Hello everybody, this is Lord Fandom, Master of all evils. Before I get down to my evil agenda, I ask that you please subscribe, like, and comment. Now that we have the introduction out of the way, we can talk about the video. This is going to be a very long project, as you can see. The Powerpuff Girls, the original Powerpuff Girls, have 6 seasons, a few specials, and a few animatics and pilots. So it's going to be a long, very long project. I decided to do the original Powerpuff Girls because, well, it was a short show, and I actually liked the show because it's very interesting to me, and its characters are pretty interesting to me. So, yeah, that's why I decided to do it. So now let's move on to the next slide here. So before we move on to the actual episodes themselves, I'm going to explain what the ratings in that star is. So the ratings for these Powerpuff Girl episodes are going to be as follows. Antidote X is very bad. The episode itself is very bad. Like, there's multiple factors that are wrong with it. And it's very unwatchable. And so that's what Antidote X is. So the Met episodes are going to be mediocre and between good and bad. They're not bad, they're just mediocre. And Chemical X is a good episode, which means it's a good episode. Everything's not perfect, but it's actually watchable and you can actually enjoy it. So yeah, and the star means that the episode itself is a special, like the series finale, for example, or the Christmas special, something like that. So yeah, those are the ratings of the episodes, and that's what the star is. So this is what the episodes in PowerPoint format are going to look like. There's going to be a star for the special, episode title, air date, production code, fun fact, etc., as you can see there. So it's pretty straightforward, and I don't have to explain more. So yeah, this is actually good. Okay, we have Whoopass Stew, a sticky situation. The air date is September 1st, 1992, and the production code is NA, so there's no production code on this. The plot is that the Amoeba Boys rob a bank and the girls get stuck to them, causing the look for a fiery situation, which is the sun. Fun fact, the first appearance of the Green Gang, of the Green Gang, the Amoeba Boys, the Professor, and the girls, which is pretty much obvious. And as you can see to the right, there's a picture of the actual sun. Yeah. The Amoeba Boys seem to be more competent here and more threatening than the actual 1998 incarnation. And there seems to be a studio audience laughter that can be really heard faintly. So yeah, this is actually a pretty dark pilot a for otherwise a very good show that is very lighthearted. Well, besides Powerpuff Girls, the movie, but we're going to talk about that when the day actually comes. So yeah. So yeah, what do I think about this? I think that this first pilot is actually a pretty good episode. It gives us what we need to know about the girls, what we need to know about the world around them. It's pretty simple, even though it's an animatic technically. So yeah, pretty good episode, and let's move on. Whoopass Stew. Whoopass a Go-Go. The air date is 92 and the production code is NA. So the plot is an early prototype of him, aka the devil, faces the girls for the key of the world. The girls do win after speeding up, By the way, this plot will be reused/revised in the Powerpuff Girls Rule, the series finale. Fun fact, this is the first appearance of the mayor in early prototype and him in early prototype. Him has a rough voice because we don't quite have Tom Kane as his voice yet. So yeah, pretty much. It's an incomplete animatic, so I don't blame the creator for having an incomplete animatic. That's just how animation works nowadays, and back then, that's just how it works. So yeah, so what do I think of this episode? Is it great as the race in the finale, or does it fall flat on its face? Actually, it's kind of neither. This is a very meh episode because, well, it's an incomplete animatic and that's how animation works. I understand that. That's how animation works. It's going to happen at one point. So, yeah. I'm not expecting shit to be fully animated sometimes, but it's okay. That's why we have deleted scenes in episodes. So yeah, this is a meh episode, and I can't believe that there's actually a meh episode among the animatics. Whoopass Stew, Monster Trouble. The air date is 92, the year of 92, and the production code is still unknown. So we have the plot is a monster tries to destroy the city, but the girls come to beat it and could not beat it. So they unite and transform into the Whoopass Dynamo to beat it. A fun fact about this is their Whoopass Dynamo will appear in season 1 of the official series and be reworked as the original 1998 incarnation of Dynamo. So yeah, this episode was actually pretty good because, well, the monster looks like him's form from Speed Demon, which is going to be in season 2, I believe, because in season 2 it's gonna come back. So yeah, unfortunately I couldn't find an actual colored picture of the monster, so I had to use a stock image. So yeah. And what do I think about this episode? Is it cool like the Whoopass Dynamo, or is it bad like the monster? Well, it's meh because of the episode itself. It's not penciled in. It's still incomplete, but I can understand why it wasn't penciled in. Maybe the creator didn't have time or anything to color it up and fix it up or something because they had something to do that day, or maybe they just wanted to do a rough draft like that. Who knows? But it's still meh in my book for what would become the 1998 incarnation of the Powerpuff Girls. So yeah, meh. What a cartoon! Meet Fuzzy Lumpkins. The air date is February 20th, 1995. The production code is 94-001. The plot is Fuzzy Lumpkin starts turning everyone into meat to eat them because of his loss in a jam contest. Fun fact, two of the original voice actors for the Powerpuff Girls are first heard in this episode, specifically Buttercup's actress and Blossom's actress. So yeah. So we're close to the original trio of voice actors for the Powerpuff Girls than we ever were before. Whoopass Stew's designs were changed from that to the Powerpuff Girls we know today because of recommendations, I believe. And Fuzzy Lumpkin seems to have created a weapon by himself that shoots lasers that turn people into meat. And it's very different from the final show, and it's very action packed. Surprisingly, Fuzzy Lumpkins knows how to construct a meat gun. That's what it basically is. So, and it's very action packed, like I said before. Is this episode a very good episode or a bad episode? Well, it's actually. So, this is a Chemical X episode. It's very good, and it introduces us to the girls as they are now in the original incarnation. And they are very good at introducing Fuzzy Lumpkins as well, because he's a hillbilly that somehow knows how to construct a meat gun, and he's actually smarter than the final show, which is surprising. Yeah, so that's it. What a cartoon! Crime 101. The air date is January 28th, 1996. Production code is 95-001. Plot is that the girls volunteer how to rob a bank for the Amoeba Boys but get arrested afterwards. Fun fact, this is one or two times the Powerpuff Girls get arrested. And as you can see here, there's a cash bag for when villains rob banks. Yeah, so the Amoeba Boys become closer to their show counterparts, and they're now a joke villain, which in my Syndicate of Evil that we have, yeah, they're marked pretty badly. So, what did I think about this episode so far? It's actually a pretty good episode. This is actually a very good episode. The Amoeba Boys are comical and more of a joke villain. They come closer to the show counterparts, just like I said. And it's a very good episode, I believe. But too bad that the Amoeba Boys are in my Hall of Joke Villains. We literally have a Hall of Joke Villains that is very hilarious to see. It is so hilarious. So yeah, Chemical X episode, this one is. Episode 1A, Monkey See, Doggie Do. The air date is November 18th, 1998, and the production code is 102. Now, the production code is out of order because the air of these episodes, I guess Monkey See, Doggy Do was the first one to really air first, but on the DVD, it's the second one. So it's probably because the network really liked Monkey See, Doggy Do. That's my guess. Okay, the plot is Mojo uses a magic Anubis head to turn people into dogs so he can rule the world. Fun fact, this plot was used in an animatic of Whoopass, the earliest incarnation of the Powerpuff Girls. So, the reason that I don't have like 4 slides of Monkey See, Doggy Do is because I think that would have been too repetitive in my opinion. So yeah, pretty much. The Anubis head was in place of a dog's head in the animatic, you know. The Powerpuff Girls signal is used one of a few times, and the Anubis head is also used to hypnotize dogs who were previously people. And this is the only time the Powerpuff Girls were turned into dogs, I believe. And this plot was reused in the sequel episode. And it had great action scenes, especially Buttercup, Bubbles, and Blossom fighting the guard dogs. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant episode. So what do I think about this episode? I think that this is a good episode because of the plot, its action scenes, and everything else. And it knocked it right out of the ballpark for me because it's so good. It is one of my favorite episodes of season 1. So yeah, that's what I have to say about episode 1A. Episode 1B, Mommy Fearest. The air date is November 18th, 1998, and the production code is 102. The plot is that Professor Utonium meets a beautiful single woman at the supermarket, but the girls are unnerved at the idea of her being a potential mother figure. Fun fact, the professor, as a result of this episode, does not date until one of the later seasons. So, yeah, because this beautiful single woman, who's called I'm a Good Lady, is actually one of the girl's many enemies named Sedusa, who could literally take one of uh, her hair, just whip you around. So yeah, and she actually manipulated Professor Utonium very, very well. And the professor is lonely in this episode, which is understandable at the beginning of the episode. And Mrs. Goodlady, or Sedusa's mask, starts to slip by making them do chores around the house and forbidding them from using their superpowers. So yeah, I don't like this. I do not like this villainess. I do not. Even Lord Phantom, for crying out loud, doesn't like her. So yeah, so Sedusa's an asshole. So yeah. And also the professor is naive, but redemption saves him. So what do I think about this episode? I think this is a very, very good episode because it displays what evil step parents can actually do. But unlike Professor Utonium, some parents aren't willing to believe their children either and prefer their stepmom or stepdad over the kids for some reason. So yeah, it's a pretty good episode, and Sedusa is a bitch. So yeah. Episode 2A, Insect Inside. The air date is November 25th, 1998, and the production code is 101. So this is the official first episode of the series, and this is the official second episode of the series on TV itself. So they mixed up the production codes somehow. So the plot is that the bug-loving loser, Roach Coach, has a plan to take over Townsville and the world with cockroaches. The girls, despite their fear, feel that it's wrong to kill a bug, so they have to figure out a clever way to defeat the cockroaches. Fun fact, Roach Coach only reappears as a cameo in the series finale, The Powerpuff Girls Rule. So yeah, I really do not like bugs either. The Powerpuff Girls hate bugs too, which is surprising, which we have a similar disinterest. So yeah, and Roach Coach is very disgusting in his hotel room, I believe, with the cockroaches coming out of the toilet, the sink, the kitchen, everywhere basically, which is basically disgusting anyway. And the Powerpuff Girls do come up with a clever way to defeat Roach Coach by putting his cockroaches in the jar at first, but then attacking it on the inside, making him fall straight to the ground like a bug. And that's where the big reveal slash plot twist is. He's actually a bug himself. A real cockroach. You. And the Powerpuff Girls learned an important lesson in this episode, which is one of the first lessons they learn, is to never squish people. So yeah. So what do I think about this episode, despite me hating bugs? This is a very good episode. And well, it very shows that this cockroachy villain ain't coming back in the series after the bug episode. So yeah, this is a very good episode and a pretty good plot and a very good moral at the end, which is basically to not squish people and to not kill a bug every time you see it. So yeah, unless they're being pests. So yeah, that's what I think about this episode. It's a Chemical X episode, and it's very great. Episode 2B, Powerpuff Bluff. The air date is November 25th, 1998, and the production code is 101. So the plot is when two criminals disguise themselves as the Powerpuff Girls. The real ones must try and stop them before they reach their wits' end. The fun fact for this episode is Mrs. Bellum is disappointed at Townsville in this episode. So yeah, I definitely agree with Mrs. Bellum in this episode. The criminals do come up with their own plan that works, but the costumes that they have in the jail for some reason is why? Why the fuck would you put costumes like that in the jail? That seems right for the picking. Yeah, I don't know why they would put them there. It actually would be easy for someone to do that. So, yeah, the criminals do come up with a plan that works. And Townsville's stupidity does not surprise me. So yeah, I'm gonna be very, very honest here. This is this is an Antidote X episode. My God, this episode sucks. The Powerpuff Girls are jailed for no reason, and there's crooks running around wearing these disgusting costumes that are like, oh my God, even Mrs. Bellum could see through it. And when you have the secretary to the mayor saying that she could see through it, that is a very bad sign. I just wonder if some of the Townsville citizens even thought, oh my God, those aren't the Powerpuff Girls, those are men in costumes, but never told anyone because they were afraid of getting exiled or something. Something very ridiculous. So yeah, I do not like this episode at all. It is shit. And even, yeah, it's good for a villain to come up with a plan that works, but when the heroes get blamed for it, it's not a good episode. It's not a good episode for a TV show anyway. So yeah, moving on to the next episode. Episode 3A, Octi Evil. The air date is December 2nd, 1998. The production code is 103. The plot of the episode is as a result of Buttercup's recklessness and Blossom's strict leadership, the relationship becomes strained. However, him uses this as an opportunity to manipulate Bubbles using Octi, her stuffed animal. Fun fact, this is him's first appearance in the official series. So yeah, the girls get into a fight. Bubbles is manipulated by him one of two times. And him uses Octi as a mouthpiece. So basically, him is introduced as basically the devil, but not the devil really. We don't know if he's a local demon of Townsville or the devil, but I think he's the devil. So yeah. And Buttercup accidentally hurt someone after listening to Bubbles tell her about Octi's leadership idea, as I call it. But then, at the end of the episode, him becomes more hungry due to negative emotions, sort of like most villains do. Only teamwork saves the day. So, yeah, him's plan is actually pretty good. I do have to admit. Him's plan is actually very good. And so, what do I think about this episode? Is it evil like him, or is it good like Bubbles herself? It is good like Bubbles herself. This is a Chemical X episode. So yeah, this is a pretty good episode that tells us about the girls' relationship with one another and extremes like recklessness and then strict leadership. So yeah, it's basically like a spectrum with Buttercup and Blossom. But Bubbles wants to be the peaceful, neutral side of the argument. So, yeah, this is a very good episode, and it shows that sibling rivalry does happen with superheroes too. Episode 3B Geshundfight. The air date is December 2nd, 1998. The production code is 103. The plot of this episode is that the Amoeba Boys' plan to stand in the rain while in front of a warning sign at Townsville Park does not go well when they get infected with a cold. It is up to the Powerpuff Girls to find an antidote before it is too late. Fun fact, this is the first time that Gross Out is on the show. So yeah, this is basically a pandemic episode, but not really a pandemic episode. It's before the current pandemic that we have. So basically, the Amoeba Boys spread around a cold, which turns into a virus, and the Powerpuff Girls have to get an antidote or a vaccine for the virus before it's basically too late. The Amoeba Boys may be too incompetent, but their plan actually works, but not in the way they intended. And this is the Amoeba Boys' third appearance in the overall franchise. So, yeah, it basically is. And the Gross Out starts to appear very regularly in the show from here on out. So, yeah, and I don't think this is a prediction of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, yeah. So, what do I think about this viral episode? Well, this is a meh episode for me because it's all over the place. The Amiibo Boys, even though they're incompetent villains, do have a solid plan, even though that wasn't their intention. They All the Amiibo Boys want to do is get to jail, go to jail. I mean, that's it. They don't want to start a pandemic by complete accident, but hey, they're the Amoeba Boys, so yeah. And I do like Buttercup's ran at them, but I just feel bad for the girls overall because they have to deal with a pandemic that they don't clearly understand and a virus that they don't understand. And everybody is dropping like flies basically because of this new virus. Yeah, so yeah. It's a meh episode, but the Amoeba Boys do get a crowning achievement for actually making a virus from their DNA. So yeah. Episode 4A Buttercrush. The air date is December 9th, 1998, and the production code is 104. The plot of this episode is Buttercup develops a crush on Ace, and the Green Gang takes advantage of this, resulting in Blossom and Bubbles being in danger. Fun fact, Buttercup develops a crush on Ace, the leader of the Green Gang, despite being scared of him in the Powerpuff Girls movie. It is possible the encounter was not for very long. So we have a continuity error coming up very soon in the Powerpuff Girls movie and this episode. So yeah. And this is the Green Gang's second appearance in the franchise overall. Ace does take advantage of this, and Buttercup shows a gesture of kindness when they're at the museum, stealing stuff to put in a pop machine or a soda machine. And Buttercup's rage at the end of the episode is actually pretty great, and Ace definitely gets what he deserves. So, what do I think about this episode? Is it destined like Buttercup's love life, or is it a bond that'll never be broken? It is a bond that will never be broken, which means this is a Chemical X episode. I love everything from the beginning to the end, and Buttercup does kind of lose her tomboyish nature a little bit, but not really. She develops a crush on Ace. Like, when you develop a crush in elementary school, it's lovey-dovey, but it's not a real relationship. You know what I mean? It's not a real relationship, so yeah. this is a good episode. Episode 4B, Fuzzy Logic. The air date is December 9th of 1998. The production code is 104. The plot of this episode is that Fuzzy Lumpkins is obsessed with keeping people off his property and goes completely insane when a squirrel comes onto his property, leading to him chasing it into Townsville. The fun fact is that this is the first time Bubbles' animal powers are seen and mentioned. Fuzzy is more of a loner slash lone wolf in this episode, and there's no advanced technology like the meat gun as as before. And Fuzzy Lumpkins has a second appearance. This is his second appearance, and there's comedic jokes like getting off my property and stuff like that. And Fuzzy's rampage is actually funny, really, really funny. And there's a scene of Buttercup and Bubbles that might have been reused in the actual reboot. So yeah, I do like this episode, and Fuzzy does get what he deserves at the end. Well, yeah, he does. He just punches people, punches people, and punches people, and punches people. I don't know what his problem is, but it's anger management issues. Sort of bad. So yeah. So do I like it like I like Fuzzy's banjo, or do I hate it like Fuzzy's voice? I love it like Fuzzy Lumpkin's banjo, which means this is a good Chemical X episode. This episode actually does a lot of things right, including the final battle with Fuzzy Lumpkins in the episode, and Buttercup smashing his banjo against his head. So yeah, this is a pretty good episode for a pretty good season. So yeah, moving on to the next one. Episode 5A, Boogie Frights. The air date is December 16th of 1998. The production code is 105. The plot of this episode is that the Boogeyman blocks out the sun and destroys the power plant to have perpetual night. Fun fact, the episode scenes in space are a reference to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So yeah, it's actually a pretty good episode because of the Boogeyman himself and of the deep voice that reminds me of someone, a character from an animated show, perhaps another animated show, and the plot reminds me of Kingdom of the Sun, the early incarnation of the Emperor's New Groove, like the villain wants to snuff out the light because to have perpetual night, just like what the Boogeyman wants to do. So yeah, I see that it's a very great episode too. And Buttercup is revealed to be scared of some things. She's not this tough person that we all think she is. She has a soft side to her, just like everybody else. So yeah, is this a great episode, like the Dixel Ball, or is it bad like the Perpetual Night? It is as great as the Disco Ball. Yeah, this episode is great from the beginning to the end. And Professor Tonium actually gives a pep talk to Bubbles at the beginning of the episode about darkness, about the dark, and about the boogeyman. And even at the end, where you can hear him saying, like, you have the power to beat him, or something like that. So yeah, this is a great episode because of the reference to Star Wars, and a great episode because of the villain, the Boogeyman. Oh, and also this is his only appearance in the actual series. So let's move on to episode 5B, Abracadaver. The air date is December 16th of 1998 and the production code is 105. The plot of this episode is a local magician named Illusion comes back from the dead to get revenge on Townsville. Fun fact, Mrs. Bellum could possibly be the little girl in the flashback, even though I don't think that could be possible, but okay. Well, the villain's backstory is explained by the mayor in the beginning of the episode, and when the magician zombie comes back from the dead, he mistakes Blossom for that little girl. So, yeah, and he is not too happy. I wouldn't be happy either if I was killed accidentally by someone. I would want revenge too, and I don't blame him. Also, there seems to be a dark alternate ending on DeviantArt, I believe. I believe so, because I saw it somewhere months ago, perhaps, maybe years ago. So yeah, and the backstory is tragic, but it's a tragic backstory, but the magician zombie just loses it on everyone, I guess. The mayor doesn't seem to connect the dots because, let's just face it, he's not that smart. So yeah. So, what do I think about this episode? This is a very, very good episode, I believe. It captures the horror aspect and the magic part of it because a magician zombie, that sounds actually pretty freaking cool, man. It sounds very, very cool. But I wouldn't want to face that in real life. Let's just face it. Even a villain like me would probably have a hard time defeating that thing. And I would probably have to stay out of its way too. So yeah, this is a very good episode. And well, this is a very good episode. So yeah, let's move on. Episode 6A, Telephonies. The air date is December 23rd of 1998, and the production code is 106. The plot of this episode is that the Green Gang break into City Hall and make prank calls on the Powerpuff Girls. Him, Fuzzy Lumpkins, and Mojo end up being their targets, and later take their revenge. Fun fact, Grubber impersonates Mrs. Bellum's voice. I'm pretty sure that Grubber did very, very good doing that voice. So, the Green Gang obviously returns in this episode, and Big Billy is dumb and soft and stupid too. And the Powerpuff Girls never find out about the events of this episode. So yeah, that's actually disturbing a little bit because if I never figured it out and I figured it out years later, I probably I'd probably do something about it. So yeah. And the Green Gang get beaten up by him, Fuzzy Lumpkins, and Mojo, which is obviously deserved in my opinion. And the Powerpuff Girls' trust with the mayor is basically broken in this episode. So yeah, so it's basically like boy cries wolf way too much and nobody believes him anymore. So yeah, and Buff Fuzzy Lumpkins is also shown, which is the first appearance of that, I believe. So yeah, so it is pretty obvious, I think, that this is a good episode. So yes, it is a good episode, my friends. I love this episode. This episode is actually very great, and I love it. I love it from beginning to end. The jokes are funny. The setup is funny. The villains get their revenge. And the mayor doesn't know what's going on. And the Powerpuff Girls say, what's happening? So, yeah. I'm pretty sure they figured it out like weeks afterwards and probably beat the shit out of them. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that they found out and they beat the shit out of them. Like literally. So yeah, that's why I figured what happened, and this is a great episode. Let's hope that the roll does not break. Episode 6B, Tough Love. The air date is December 23rd of 1998, and the production code is 106. So the plot of this episode is when him gets angry and jealous of the Powerpuff Girls' love, he and Mr. Quackers decide to turn the love of Townsville into evil hate, using an evil gas. So, yeah, basically, you're like Ernie from Sesame Street. You can't live without your rubber duck. The fun fact is that another power of him is revealed in this episode, which is creating gas that makes people hateful. Which is not surprising for the devil. He could do shit like that, so I'm not surprised. The love is turned into hate, and everybody in the episode gets beaten up at the end, which, yeah, is kind of a bad idea, but what are you going to do against an army of people that used to love you? Yeah, I don't think going after him would be a good idea. But maybe after you beat up everybody, then you beat the shit out of him or something? You beat him up? I don't know. Yeah, so this episode's actually pretty good, and him, you deserve to be beaten up for what you did. As a villain, that is low even for me. So yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty good episode, except for the not beating up him. I really do not like him at all. He is a nuisance, clearly, to the citizens of Townsville. I'm not surprised that they got hypnotized. That's just what happens. But in a later episode, I believe, they're affected by him's powers. But why weren't they affected before? Did him just want to be an ass about it? Who knows? I'll find out in the episode. We'll find out later. So yeah, it's a very good episode, and I would recommend watching it. Episode 7A, Major Competition, air date, January 6, 1999. The production code is 107. The plot is that a new superhero called Major Man arrives in Townsville and steals the girls' thunder. It is up to them to prove that this new superhero is a fraud and a phony. The fun fact is that Major Man's anime intro may be inspired by Sailor Moon or other animes at the time. So yeah, his anime intro, some sort, is kind of weird, but I like it. And he's a queer parody of Superman himself. But Major Man's song, it's great. It's great. It really is. But the mayor sort of feels remorseful and guilty about it for a little bit, and then he just doesn't feel remorse or guilt anymore. I don't think that's the case, but to me, it's the case. The girls do get fishy and do the same thing that Major Man did to set the whole thing up, which is sneaky. That's not being a superhero. Hint, that's not a superhero thing. That is more of an anti-hero slash villain thing, which, if you claim to be a hero, do not be like Homelander. Okay? Do not be like Homelander, okay? Nobody likes Homelander. Anyway, what do I think about this fantastic piece of art? Is it a bad episode? A meh episode? Or a very good episode? Well, this is a meh episode for me. The only thing that's saving it from becoming an Antidote X episode is the anime intro that Major Man has and Major Man's song. That's it. Everything about the else about the episode is very undercooked and very bad. which means that Houndsville, once it gets a shiny new model, it will throw out the old model, which means they do not care about the Powerpuff Girls in this specific episode. I just think that Townsville is very gullible and naive about every little thing. So, yeah, this is a meh episode for me. And we're going to move on to the next episode. Episode 7B, Mr. Mojo's Rising. The air date is January 6th of 1999. The production code is 107. So in this episode, when Mojo kidnaps the professor, it is a blast from the past, or Chemical X in this case. After Mojo reveals his origin story, the professor is tricked into building a machine that copies the girl's powers. Fun fact, the origin story is retold in the Powerpuff Girls movie, but with a lot more details. So yeah, even though, and there's plot holes in this episode that connects to the movie as well, so I may reference back to this episode at some point during that movie review. Okay, the origin story is revealed for both Mojo and the girls, which we already knew in the intro already. The professor's memory is hazy from the JoJo days before he was mutated by Chemical X itself. And it's revealed later in the episode that Mojo does want to destroy the professor. So yeah, he wants to destroy the professor, which is not that obvious. Well, really more obvious. And there's an epic montage of them both building the machine, the professor and Mojo. And Mojo's chaotic nature is revealed as once he starts destroying the machines, his chaotic nature is revealed, and the professor goes basically into a rage, and Mojo is shocked that he made the Powerpuff Girls basically. So yeah, pretty much action-packed throughout the entire episode, and it's a pretty great episode. This means that it's a Chemical X episode. From the beginning to the end, it is perfect, very perfect, and it expands the lore of the Powerpuff Girls original series. So yeah, this is a great, very great episode, and I think for any Powerpuff Girls fan, you should watch this episode. Episode 8A, Paste Makes Waste. The air date is January 13th of 1999. The production code is 108. The plot of this episode is right after being bullied at school, Elmer S. Glue becomes a paste monster. It is up to Buttercup to admit her actions to Elmer in her least favorite way, apologizing. The fun fact here is Buttercup is the second or first animated character to me, that can't say sorry. Squidward could be the second or the first one. So yeah, both of these characters can't say sorry right, but Buttercup, it does have an advantage over Squidward because she eventually says sorry. So yeah. And Buttercup joins in with the teasing in this episode, which I don't like. It's just, she's a kid. Yes, she's a kid. Some people will do that. Some kids will do that. And Mitch is also a brat, which I don't like. Ugh. I just do not like Mitch either. So after Elmer turns into the paste monster, he lets the power go to his head, sort of. And then Buttercup finally says sorry, which Elmer accepts. accepts with he accepts it. Yeah, he accepts it. So yeah. So what do I think about this episode? Hmm, this is the second Antidote X episode and probably the last one that you'll see in this video. So yeah, I do not like this episode. I think that some characters are out of character a little bit, and well, it's just not a very good episode. It's like Buttercup, I think, should know better, but at the same time, she's a kid, so there's really nothing else to say. I just don't like the bullying aspect of the episode. It's just really mean spirited in this one. But I do kind of like it at the end that Elmer as a pace monster fixes up everything. So yeah, this is an Antidote X episode and it's not that good. So yeah, let's move on to the onto episode 8B. Episode 8B, Eyesore. The air date is January 13th, 1999, and the production code is 108. The plot of this episode is that Blossom discovers a new power, Ice Breath, and tries not to use it unless she really needs to. Unfortunately, she gives in to peer pressure. The fun fact of this episode is this is the first appearance of Blossom's Ice Breath along with Fire Breath, I believe. And the this is one of the few episodes that Tom and Jerry is referenced. And Bubbles can speak other languages, and Blossom does use it for misuse, use the ice breath for misuse. And Bubbles and Buttercup get jealous of her because they don't have ice breath. And well, yeah, I understand the jealousy there because they have Blossom has that power and they don't. So yeah, and the professor doesn't have that power either because he's human, a regular human. Yeah, and the source of the unbearable heat in the episode is a meteor. And the ice breath at the end of the episode is replaced with fire breath. So yeah, this I believe is this is a meh episode for me because of the Blossom exiling herself after she accidentally got the criminals away, and she gives it the peer pressure, which does happen in real life sometimes. Peer pressure is not good. And well, it's really a meh episode for me because it's just not that action packed. I'm just saying it. It's not that action packed, but there's probably going to be some episodes where there's not that much action, which I understand. It's a cartoon. We need to have breathers once in a while. So yeah, so this is just a breather episode and nothing more. Episode 9A, Bubblevicious. The air date is January 20th of 1999 and the production code is 109. So the plot of this episode is Bubbles being sick, being treated like a baby, so she tries to become tougher and encounters a new hardcore side of herself. However, she turns against her sisters after going too far. Fun fact, this episode has Bubbles at one of her angriest moments, I believe. Yeah, this episode is actually pretty good in the beginning and the middle. Well, actually, in the beginning and the ending, so I'll get into that. Buttercup's action scene is actually pretty good. The little robot, when Bubbles does her simulation at the beginning of the episode, is pretty funny, I believe. And Bubbles becomes too revved up after the after the second simulation when her sisters have gone to bed, when they have gone to literally bed. So yeah, you're gonna be revved up. It's after she says, who else wants some? Which is a quote right there. Like, really, that's what's gonna happen when you're like that. So, yeah, this is a pretty good episode until the middle, I believe. Well, the middle is actually pretty good too, but Bubble starts beating up people for no reason, no plan, no nothing. She's just enforcing her will onto people. Like, really, you're supposed to be a hero saving people, and yeah, you're supposed to be enforcing the laws, but not beating everybody up. That is just stupid. Anyway, Mojo underestimates Bubbles, which I talked to him later about anyway. So yeah, and Bubble apologizes at the beginning of the episode, and the apology is kind of not really that good, but okay, I guess. Mojo was beaten up very badly, yeah, because of his fingers and his cracked helmet revealing his brain, which was a hell of a lot to, you know, fix up. My God, those bills were atrocious. So yeah, this is Bubblevicious, but what do I really think of this episode? Well, this is surprisingly a meh episode for me because, well, even though Bubbles is kind of a jerk in this episode, she apologizes for it, but it's not really good. And as I said before, the build up it's there. It's obviously there, but her turning anti-hero on both of her sisters is kind of unexpected. And I do like Buttercup's action scene, as I said before. So this is a meh episode for me, but for others, it may be a good episode or a bad episode. And one thing I do have to add is that Bubbles is seen as the joy and the laughter, which will come into play later when I do more seasons of this show. So yeah. Episode 9B, The Bare Facts. The air date is January 20th of 1999. The production code is 109. The plot of this episode is the girls tell a naked mayor how they rescued him from Mojo from their point of view. So yes, this plot is very simple and very straightforward. And also, there's a fun fact. Mrs. Bellum leads the town, not the mayor. Yeah, that's the truth. I'm just going to be honest here for a little minute. Mrs. Bellum runs that town, not the mayor. The mayor is just incompetent of Townsville. The mayor of Townsville is incompetent at times, okay? He's incompetent at times, but not always. He probably has a few shiny moments in here, but yeah, that's what I think. Also, this episode, their stories, the Powerpuff Girls stories, don't make sense, but maybe are true from a certain point of view. And yes, I reference Star Wars. The mayor's point of view during the episode. So yeah, he gets kidnapped by Mojo. He gets kidnapped by Mojo again. He fucking. Oh yeah, then the girls fight. Mojo, the mayor's rescued. Yada. Yeah, pretty much. And there's different perspectives from the Powerpuff Girls in the story, which is sort of the same point as I said before. And also, no surprise there, the mayor was naked the entire time. Which, why didn't you find his clothes? I'm pretty sure that his clothes were back at Mojo's lair the last time they were there in that episode. And the girls were giggling because he was naked, so yeah, it's immature, but they're kids. So yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. it's still a good episode, really. It is still a good episode, I believe. So yeah, I still believe that this is a great episode because of the uniqueness of this episode. There's a perspective of you. The mayor is told 3 different stories at once. It is very, very great. And I believe that there should be more episodes like this in animation in general. Yeah. So let's move on to episode 10A. Episode 10A, Catmandu. The air date is January 27th of 1999, and the production code is 110. So the plot of this episode is, after arresting the man for his scheme to hypnotize Townsville, the cat is saved by Bubbles, but when the girls get home with the cat, the professor starts acting strange. Fun fact, the professor has problems with cats after this episode, which isn't a surprise, because the cat is evil. Yeah, so the cat's the real villain. And the girls react in different ways after being surprised that the Utonium's gonna keep the pet. And guess what? It's evil! So yeah, the plan is genius. The cat villain just hypnotizes everybody to be cats, doing cat things, and people start acting like cats, which is pretty hilarious. Yeah, I've seen cats. They are mean, but they are so, so funny. Yeah, and I like cats. I really do like cats. So yeah, this is a great episode from beginning to end. The villain is actually unique, and we don't see the villain again until the series finale, which I think is for the best. So yeah, I'm gonna give you my rating on the episode. I think this is a great episode because of the villain and the scheme that actually seems to work at first, but is inevitably stopped. The professor starts acting more like a cat, and it's really, really funny to see him act like a cat and have the cat act more like a human. So it's a pretty good role reversal for this episode. And yeah, this is a great, great episode. And yeah, this is great. Episode 10B, Impeach Fuzz. The air date is January 27th of 1999 and the production code is 110. So the plot of this episode is, after the mayor loses the election to Fuzzy Lumpkins, the girls have to step in and restore the mayor's faded glory from Fuzzy's own selfish ways. Fun fact, the mayor may have been the mayor of Townsville for decades at this point, which is not really that surprising, seemingly because he's old, and we have a later episode where the girls go back in time. So, yeah. The Fuzzy wins by doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, he does nothing. While the mayor works his ass off. And Bone's new outfit. Okay, it's sexist. Okay, it's sexist. Let's just be honest, it's a little sexist. So yeah, and the emergencies that Fuzzy Lumpkins has as mayor are absolutely ridiculous but hilarious to see on the screen. And later in the episode, the mayor challenges Fuzzy Lumpkins to a wrestling match against him for his hat and the mayor position again. So yeah, until Fuzzy Lumpkins puts back on the hat, when he puts back on the hat, the mayor suddenly gets anime powers out of nowhere, which are not really anime powers, which are they're more like cartoon powers of awesomeness. So yeah, he just starts wagging him around like a rag doll. Yeah, until he collapses to the floor. So, what do I think about this episode? Well, another Chemical X episode out of the ballpark. So yeah, this is a great episode. The mayor fights back for his position pretty well. And well, it is pretty hilarious too. And also the ending is great. And I'm sorry, Fuzzy Lumpkins, but you got defeated really very badly. Oh God, I feel sorry for him sometimes. So yeah, this is a great episode. And we're almost at the end of the season, which means the next episode is Episode 11A, Just Another Manic Mojo. The air date is February 3rd of 1999. The production code is 111. The plot of this episode is when the girls accidentally knock their baseball into Mojo's lair, he does everything he can to keep them there so he can set up a trap. Fun fact, the subtitles for Bubbles are wrong in one scene on the 10th anniversary DVD collection. So yes, that is actually a thing. The narrator comes up with other words to describe Mojo while he's introducing Mojojo himself. The helmet screwing in or on is a reference to Empire Strikes Back. If you don't know what that is, it's Star Wars Episode 5. Mojojo hates people. Hey, he and I can relate. Mojojo's long-winded speech for nearly everything. So yeah, he has a long-winded speech like everybody else. So like everyone I've ever known with somebody with a disability. So yeah. And Mojojo's first experience with the Powerpuff Girls as actual children, not his nemesis, just regular children. Yeah, they are a nuisance in this episode, but I think it plays very well with the whole baseball thing. So yeah, and also Bubbles wears a baseball cap in the episode, so that's another cool thing. So and he also says curses from here on out. Like curses, curses, curses. Yeah, that's his catchphrase. Curses. So yeah, this. What do I think of this episode? This is a great episode from beginning to finish. Even with Mojo sort of winning, but not really, because Mojo gets frustrated after trying to set up a trap, and the girls try helping him find a baseball, but it doesn't go well as the destruction goes on and on. So yeah, this is a great episode from beginning to end, and it's one of my favorite episodes of season 1. Episode 11B, Mime for a Change. The air date is February 3rd of 1999. The production code is 111. The plot of this episode is that an accidental bleach spill turns Rainbow the Clown into Mr. Mime, who proceeds to turn the bright colors of Townsville into black and white. Fun fact, Rainbow the Clown is played by Tom Kenny, which is pretty obvious at the beginning of the episode. Also, colors equals essence in this episode, which means basically Mr. Mime is basically not killing people, but putting them into a coma-like state. Basically, Mr. Mime was stealing souls. People, he was stealing souls. So yeah, he was stealing souls. and the love makes the world go around. This was a very, very great song that is very great, and I like it. There's a fan theory going around that the clown is actually him, but it's easily disproven by watching Birthday Bash from season 2. So yeah, I don't know why people came up with it. It's just a very bad fan theory. Bubbles freak out when they find out that the Townsville is drained of color, and Blossom and Buttercup are drained of their colors in essence. So yeah, and and Rainbow the Clown was accidentally turned into Mr. Mime. Does that technically mean that the bleach company the bleach truck is responsible for that madness? But I'm pretty sure it was an accident. So who keeps radioactive bleach on a truck like that? So anyway, and also Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, if he was in this episode instead of Mr. Mime, Townsville would be screwed. And it would not be a happy day for Townsville at all. So yeah. So what do I think about this episode? Okay, this is a very, very, very good episode because of Love Makes the World Go Round, and it's pretty good ending too, where the clown is beaten up, which is not really that epic. So yeah, this is a great episode. And also, do not ever mess with Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. You will be screwed. Episode 12, The Rowdyruff Boys. The air date is April 7th of 1999, and the production code is 112. The plot of this episode is that Mojo creates the Rowdyruff Boys to defeat the girls once and for all. When the girls lose by regular fighting, they must use feminine wills to defeat the Rowdyruffs. Fun fact, the Rowdyruff Boys never introduced themselves to the girls. They just come out and fight. Bubbles is a little naive during the scene where Jojo is talking to her on the phone. So yeah, I don't think she would recognize Jojo's voice at all. Anyway, the perfect little girl recipe is revealed in this episode, which is sugar, spice, everything nice, but I don't remember the amount. So yeah. But instead, Mojojo makes changes to that recipe and says that he needs boys. So yeah, snips, hair snips, snails, and a puppy dog tail. So yeah, and the boys' names are Brick, Boomer, and Butch in that order. And this is one of the many fights that the girls lose because of the afterburner, which is mostly gas. So yeah, and the Rowdyruff Boys are defeated with kissing, which I think is a very weak way to defeat them. But you gotta defeat the enemy somehow. So yeah. So what do I think about this certain episode? This is a Chemical X episode, and it's great from the beginning to the end. And it actually brings us the Rowdyruff Boys, which are basically gender bender equivalents to the Powerpuff Girls in almost every way. And this is one of Mojojo's actually one more. This is one of Mojojo's more successful plans. And I can't believe I'm saying this. It actually almost worked, which I really am proud of him for. Because Mojojo has been losing and losing and losing and losing, and then he almost wins, and then they die, which sucks. But you know, you gotta defeat the enemy somehow. So yeah, and also him revives them, which I do not like. I would have preferred if Mojo revived them or something, just to get revenge. That would have been a great sequel to this episode. That would have been a great sequel. So now we're on to the last episode of season 1. Episode 13, Oh Dynamo. The air date is May 27th of 1999 and the production code is 113. The plot of this episode is when the professor worries for the girl's safety, he builds a 50-foot tall robot. Okay, that's okay. Get I get the concern for his safety, the concern for the girl's safety. So, moving on to the fun fact. After this episode, Dynamo is forbidden to be ever used again. But the mayor hijacks it unknowingly in the later episode. So, yeah. So, basically, at the end of the episode, the mayor bans Dynamo forever. And he told him to use it, which I'm going to get into more of this later because I have more stuff to get through. Townsville is like a city full of culture because they have bonsai gardens and an Irish residential quarter, I believe, a Japanese one, a Chinese one. And this is Powerpuff Dynamo's second appearance. Her first appearance was in an animatic. So yeah. The Professor Utonium is concerned. Yeah, he's concerned, which I talked about beforehand, which, Jesus Christ, why did you have to build a 50-foot tall robot when you could have just built some type of advanced mech suit that wasn't 50-foot tall, that's taller than the house? So yeah, and Bubbles likes root beer and Professor Utonium insists using Dynamo multiple times, but it's not okay. There's a monster that Dynamo has to fight, and while the monster and Dynamo fight, the city is practically destroyed at that point, which is a thumbs up for me because I don't like Townsville that much, but even I have sympathy for them right now. And let's get into the last thing. Townsville is pissed off beyond belief, which playing devil's advocate here, I am pissed off for them. So, yeah, imagine a 50-foot tall robot doing that shit. So, what do I give a rating on this episode? This is a meh episode because, well, Professor Utonium should not have built a 50-foot tall robot, for God's sake. Because that thing is tall, if not taller than a skyscraper. And well, even though it has traits of all the Powerpuff Girls' unique hair designs, I would not use it again anyway. The Powerpuff Girls are saying like, please, we don't want to use it. And they have to use it or they're grounded, which is nice. Even though I do like the action scene in Dynamo breakdancing, it's still a meh episode for me because of the Townsville behavior, which is crappy, to say the least. But I understand where they're coming from. I really understand where they're coming from. Because their city was just destroyed by a monster and the robot. So the mayor says, you're forbidden to be used ever again. Or else, probably. So yeah, this is what it ended. It started off so good, but then its ending is kind of weird. So yeah, despite despite season one starting off with a bang, it ended with a whimper, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing. So now that I'm done with the episodes, we're gonna go to the top two worst and best episodes of season one. The number two worst is obviously Pace Makes Waste, which is episode 8A. And like I said before, I just did not like the episode itself because of its supposed mean spiritedness. So yeah. The number one worst episode is Powerpuff Bluff because, well, Townsville is unbelievably stupid in that episode, and believe me, I fucking hate that too. I just do not like that episode. And I am not going to watch that episode ever again. So yeah. So moving on to the best, we got Tough Love with episode 6B, which is in second place, and that was a very good him-centered episode because they had to fight. The Powerpuff Girls had to fight against their loved ones, and they should have beaten up him because that would have been awesome. And number one is Mime for a Change, episode 11B, which is the best episode of season one thus far. Well, not thus far, but in the series thus far. So the only reason that it's at number one is because of love makes the world go round. So yeah, that's my top two picks for the worst and the best episodes of season one. So we're gonna move on to the pie chart. As you can see on this pie chart here, there's three types of episodes. The Meta episodes, the Antidote X episode, and the Chemical X episodes. As you can see, most of the episodes are pretty good, which are Chemical X episodes, and it's most of the pie. But the Meta episodes are 7, which means there's going to be probably a lot of more Meta episodes thus going forward. And the Antidote X episodes are likely to increase as well as the series goes on. So yeah, the Antidote X. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, this is a good season, and I really, really like it. So yeah, it's a pretty good season. So in season two, we're gonna get a new villain, and you know who that is. And if I have to, I'm not gonna say it until we get to the first episode of season two. So yeah, it's not gonna be a good time for me. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time in every episode of Powerpuff Girls Reviewed 1998, Part 2. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time.